The film which you are about to see is an account of the tragedy which befell a group of 5 youths, in particular, Sally Hardesty and her invalid brother, Franklin. It is all the more tragic in that they were young. But had they lived very, very long lives, they could not have expected, nor would they have wished to see as much of the mad and macabre as they were to see that day. For them, an idyllic summer afternoon drive became a nightmare. The events of that day were to lead to the discovery of one of the most bizarre crimes in the annals of American history, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Pumpkin Patch. I'm Jessica Moser and I'm your host for this day of Halloween. So I hope you're ready for your 4 movies and 1 Halloween and other media selection for today. Today's selection for our Halloween classic is the 1974 iconic Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, I know what you're saying. If you've seen any of our haunted house videos, you know that I am terrified of chainsaws and haunted houses. So, is it a little bit funny that James gave me this movie to cover? Maybe. He probably did it on purpose. I guess we'll see later. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was produced and directed by Tobe Hooper, who made this movie for a mere $140,000. He had a really hard time getting it distributed after he made it because of the amount of violence. He actually tried to cut down the amount of violence in the movie in order to get a PG rating. That didn't work. It was still rated R. 1974 is a year where there's no PG-13 ratings at that point. But there's actually not a ton of violence portrayed in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Not the first movie anyway. J.T. Wheatley, we're not talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 here. Just FYI. Texas Chainsaw Massacre also stars Gunnar Hansen, who plays Leatherface. This movie is solidly in the slasher genre and definitely helped influence the slasher genre going forward. This movie really led to the use of power tools as murder weapons in future slasher movies. It also led to many sequels and, of course, tons of chainsaws in haunted houses. Honestly, I love the chainsaws in haunted houses, even though I'm scared of them and I will run. There's something about that initial, roar of the chainsaw that just makes me automatically scared. A pretty normal human response, but I like being scared, so I find that part fun. This movie was marketed as based on a true story. While there was some inspiration taken from the crimes of serial killer Ed Gein, this movie actually wasn't based on a true story, and that was just a marketing ploy. And again, this movie, I don't really have a lot to say about the plot. It's a typical slasher movie, and there's not a ton to say about the plot without spoiling anything, other than it's just a group of friends who encounters a violent family on their journey. So I hope that you'll enjoy Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I hope that you also enjoy chainsaws in haunted houses as much as I do. You can find Texas Chainsaw Massacre on Tubi, which is free, and on Amazon Prime. Roar. For our overlooked horror movie of the day, we have Dark Touch, which is from 2013. It's an Irish, French, Swedish horror movie that was directed by Marina Devan. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. It premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival, and it stars Missy Keating, who is a young actress who played 11-year-old Neve, who's the central character in this film. It's set in a small, isolated community in Ireland. The central plot revolves around Neve, who is found bruised and bloody, and the rest of her family, her parents and her baby brother, have been massacred. She says that the house performed the massacre, but the police don't believe her, and they think it's probably a gang of vandals and that she's just remembering incorrectly. So they really go about investigating the crime that way. 11-year-old Neve is taken in by some of her neighbors, and then some supernatural stuff starts to happen in their house that they believe might be being caused by their house too. The central character in this movie is named Neve, and I had to make sure I was pronouncing that name correctly because it's spelled Niamh. Nearly everyone else in this movie has a name that would be easily pronounceable by someone who is American and butchers language all the time. Nat, Lucas, Emily. Because Neve is spelled in a Gaelic way, I had to go back just to make sure I was pronouncing her name correctly. So I am with James on the struggle to pronounce names correctly train here. This movie has a lot of critical acclaim, and it was director Maria Devan's. It was only her third feature film, so that's impressive. Also, you can't find Dark Touch available on any streaming service that I could find. It's available for rent on YouTube, Apple, Amazon, or really wherever you prefer to rent movies. The first movie in our late night double feature picture show is another foreign film called REC. R-E-C, which stands for Record, made in 2007, directed by Jaume Balaguerro and Paco Plaza. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It could be wrong. Hopefully I got it close to correct there. This movie spawned several sequels. There's a REC 2, 3, and 4. It is a Spanish film, so it's also in Spanish. You can find it with subtitles, but they remade this movie in the US in 2008, and the movie's called Quarantine. This movie is a found footage style movie. It's about a reporter named Angela and her cameraman named Pablo, and they're in Barcelona, and they are stationed at a fire department for the evening just to see and report on what happens late night at a fire station. The fire station gets a call about a disturbance in an apartment building. They respond to the call, and Angela and Pablo tag along with the two firefighters. When they get to the apartment building, an old woman attacks one of the firefighters and takes a bite out of his neck. Again, this movie also doesn't call them zombies, but it seems like a zombie to me. After a series of other violent encounters, they find out that the people in the apartment building have a virus similar to rabies. The authorities decided the best way to deal with this is to quarantine the entire building, including the non-infected. Not that anything would happen like that in real life, or that a virus would spread super fast. We don't know anything about that. The rest of the movie really follows Angela and Pablo and what happens to them after they're trapped in the apartment building. A BBC reviewer named Jamie Russell described this movie as claustrophobic, and I think that's an apt description because they're shut into this apartment building where they actually don't have a residence. And he also described it as a runaway roller coaster. Also, this movie has high critical acclaim and is known in Europe as one of the best found footage movies there. It was also very commercially successful, especially in Europe. You can find REC streaming on Sling and Amazon Prime. And the Amazon Prime version, I know, has the subtitles on the bottom so that you can read those if you don't speak Spanish. For the second half of the double feature picture show, we've chosen Night of the Demons from 1988. Not the remake. Not that the remake is bad, but we've chosen the original Night of the Demons. It's directed by Kevin Tenney, who's also known for 1986's Witchboard. It stars Amelia Kincaid, Linnea Quigley, and Hal Havens. The plot follows a group of 10 high school students who go to a long-abandoned funeral parlor. There are rumors that the funeral parlor Hull House was closed due to evil spirits that lurked there. During a seance, the teenagers release one of the demons. A lot of teenage antics and demon possessions follow. I'd say that this is a classic B movie. It's one of the first horror movies that I watched as a younger person. Younger than I am now, surely. Linnea Quigley and Hal Havens also end up starring together in the same year in Sorority Babes at the Slime Bowl-orama. Also, a few other interesting facts. Kathy Podwell is well known for playing J.R.'s second wife and J.R. Ewing's second wife in Dallas. Amelia Kincaid is Rue McClanahan, who played Blanche on Golden Girls. It's her niece. She also had a career previous to being an actor where she was a dancer. And she currently works as a psychic pet communicator, which is, I guess, a thing. Night of the Demons is a lot of fun. There's a lot of comedy injected into it, so I really hope that you'll enjoy it. It's also available on Pluto TV and IMDb TV, which are free, and it's available on Amazon Prime if you subscribe to Prime. I really hope you'll enjoy this as much as a younger version of Jessica did. Today's selection for Halloween and Other Media is the 1998 classic hip-hop album, It's Dark and Hell is Hot. by DMX. Now, I know Pumpkin Patch. You might be like, wait, what? It's a hip-hop album from 1998. But let me just tell you, this album has a lot of elements of horror, voicing your own demons. One of the overarching themes of this album and a lot of DMX albums is trying to find peace in a world where there's a lot of terror and violence. The song X is Coming from this album has an adaptation of the nursery rhyme that's in Nightmare on Elm Street. The song Damien from the album is really DMX voicing a character that is like the bad angel on his shoulder, like a demonic presence in his life that's telling him to do evil and dark things. It also features Rough Riders Anthem, which you probably know. It also features Stop Being Greedy, How's It Going Down. There are undertones of darkness and the supernatural throughout this album. There's a feeling of impending evil throughout the album that really shines through. This is an album that I owned and listened to a lot when I was a teenager. This album was really a response to the shiny suit hip hop that had happened in the mid-90s. Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, I think we call him P. Diddy now. You at me in the comments if I'm calling him by the wrong name, because I feel like it's different all the time. But whatever. I'll call him whatever he wants me to call him. I just need to know. Anyway, Sean Combs specifically said that he planned to never sign DMX because his voice was too rough. We'd enter a time in hip hop where people wanted smoother, more poppy sounds. This album went quadruple platinum, so I think people wanted this more gritty sound as well. There are dark, aggressive, and brooding moods through this album. I really feel like the affinity for the horror genre comes through. And in fact, honestly, when I did some research about this album online, some people call it horrorcore. And so I thought that was interesting. So I don't think we're the first people to make this observation. Obviously, this album has a parental advisory. It's not suitable for work, probably not suitable to listen to around your children. You could see and hear, DMX stands for Darkman X, and Darkman X and Earl Simmons are different people, and I think that if you listen to DMX's albums, you can see how he viewed himself as having that dichotomy of people in his life. And I think we all feel that way sometimes, and I think that a lot of the horror genre is about trying to find that peace amongst chaos in your life, and so I think that this really fits with that specific mood and vibe. Unfortunately, as you guys may know, DMX lost the battle with his demons earlier this year in 2021. That was really hard to see. DMX was an extremely talented person, and we here at the Fall Horsemen were very sad to hear of his passing. James and I got to see him perform live in 1999, and it was an amazing experience, and he was one of the best performers that I'd seen. I was just blown away at the amount of energy that he gave to the crowd, and so that was a specific special moment that I will never ever forget. If you haven't ever listened to this album, I think give it a try. I hope that you'll like it. If you're a younger person and you've never heard any of DMX's music, I think this is a good place to start. And if you have heard it, what's your favorite DMX song? I think my favorite DMX song is actually not on this album, but I think this album has the most Halloween-y vibes.
See, to live is to suffer. To survive, well, that's to find meaning in the suffering.
Alright, Pumpkin Patch, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed our selections. Please remember to click or treat. That's where you like, share, and subscribe. We'd really like to get to 1,000 subscribers by Halloween. Now, feel free to stalk us in all the social media. Let me know in the comments what you thought of these selections, and we'll be sure to respond. Thanks so much for watching, always. If all you ever do is just watch our videos, we love and appreciate you so much for doing that. Thanks so much for riding with the Fall Horsemen, where Halloween lives and fall is forever. Alright, today's selection for our horror for today's version version, what am I thinking? I have have to look something up quickly. In the Slime Bowl-orama. I don't know if I'm saying this person's name correctly. It was written by Joe, at every opportunity. It also led to, gosh, I hear it in my mouth again. Do you want to say that? I don't know what else I was going to say there. Teenagers? Are they teenagers? It's an Irish, Swedish, one other. Future Jessica will be able to tell you more about that. But the movie, that was, I think that also demonstrates, I think that, close to correctly. There's also, goodness, I can't say what I'm trying to say here. I pronounce the names and I can't do anything else. Directed by, is the 1980, not 1988. What am I trying to say here? I'm going to close this door too.